Welcome to fabulous Las Vegas, home of glitz, glamour, and registered trademarks. I feel like I should have some music here or something. There we go. Now legally I can only use like 5 seconds of this song, so let's get on with it. Now Vegas entices millions every year to its shows, restaurants, and of course, its gambling. Let's just take a quick look at the Strip and talk about some of the areas that you'll want to consider seeing as opposed to some of the areas where you want to consider gambling. They may not be the same places. And now this is not a tourism course, but bear with me. It'll take just a few minutes. And of course, if you know Vegas already, you can just skip this lecture. Just a quick note before I begin. What makes a casino cheap and what makes a casino expensive? Well, there are two things that really go into it. Number one is the table minimums. This is the minimum amount of money that you can bet on any one hand. Now, we'll talk about this in more detail in later lectures, but generally speaking, the lower the table minimum, the cheaper the casino. The other thing when it comes to cheap versus expensive, of course, is the cost of food and drink and anything else you spend at the casino. Now, I don't want you to think that cheap means bad and expensive means good. It's just a way for you to make decisions on where you're going to do your touristy type things and where you're actually going to gamble. So for the purposes of this presentation, let's split Vegas into 5 sections. This isn't a perfect guide, but it's pretty decent. Let's talk about section 1, the main strip. This is where the glitz is. We're talking Caesar's Palace, the Cosmo, Paris. Probably my favorite big-ass casino is the Venetian. It's just insanely large and overwhelming. If you're going to Vegas, you should definitely visit these casinos. You'll be amazed at the massive scale, the quality of the food, the quality of the shows, and of course the excessive prices. However, unless you have a bankroll in excess of a few $1,000s, you probably shouldn't consider gambling at these casinos. But for shows and food, you really can't beat them. The other thing that's nice is pretty much every one of these casinos has free valet parking. Section 2 is sort of what we call off-strip. These are the blocks that surround the main strip. They're mostly on the eastern side, but you'll also find casinos on the western side too, and a little bit to the north of the main strip area. For example, north of the Link, there's Casino Royale. To the west of the main strip, there's the Rio, which is actually a nice casino. To the east of the strip, there's Ellis Island. A lot of these casinos tend to be cheaper. They tend to have smaller table minimums. But the nice thing about them is they're a really short walk or a very short cab ride from the main strip. So you can easily stay on the strip, see the shows, get the food, do all that kind of stuff there, and short walk out, and you can gamble at a much cheaper casino. Very good if you're just learning to gamble or if you have a lower bankroll. Okay, section 3, let's jump up north to downtown and Fremont Street. This honestly is probably my favorite area of Vegas, but I'm amazed at how few people, I should say, go up there. We have people come into town frequently, and we always take them up there, and some of them have been coming to town for years, and I'm surprised how often it's the first time they've ever been to Fremont Street. Admittedly, it is quite far up there. You probably need to get the bus, a cab, or drive up there. But you do get a good selection of smaller, cheaper casinos up there. The zip line is pretty cool too. And if you're into people watching, there are so many crazies up there. You'll love the people watching. It's the best. So here we're talking about casinos like the Golden Nugget and the Four Queens, some of the original casinos. In my opinion, the players and the dealers are a little bit friendlier up there, but I don't want my opinion to sway you. It's totally up to you to decide. So section 4, for the locals. People live here in Vegas. Are they crazy? They are a little crazy, but that's a different conversation. Outside of the main strip area, Vegas is just one ginormous suburb where people spend their days working, mowing their lawns, and so on. Some of the locals like to gamble too, but oftentimes they don't necessarily want to go to the craziness of the strip. They want a little more relaxed atmosphere. So if you want this kind of thing, you're probably going to need a car. You're going to have to drive out to areas in the northwest like Summerlin and like Henderson to the east. Here you'll find casinos like South Point, Sunset, and Santa Fe Station. You'll also find a lot of bars in that area that have gambling as well. But generally speaking, gambling in bars almost exclusively machines. It's very rare that you'll find table games in bars. All right, finally, last but not least, North Las Vegas. So, I know people live in North Las Vegas. I go to North Las Vegas. A lot of people call it the ghetto, though. You'll hear a lot of people say, don't ever go up there. But hey, variety is the spice of life, right? If you want to get some really cheap gambling, you want to check out places up in North Vegas. Like, you can get $3 blackjack at the Poker Palace, which is pretty insane. But seriously, be smart, watch your wallets, lock your cars, be safe. But at the same time, doesn't necessarily mean you need to avoid it. It's really up to you to decide. Now, I don't want all these opinions to sway you necessarily on what you think is your favorite area. Just take a look at all of them, see what you think. I gotta admit, I like downtown a lot, but at the same time, I like that idea of staying right in the Strip and then walking out to those off-Strip casinos to gamble. The final thing you should know is the time of day. Casino table minimums change depending on the time of day. So, for example, on a Monday morning, you might find the same blackjack table that was expensive on a Saturday night is now cheaper on a Monday morning. So keep those types of things in mind. If you're coming to Vegas and you know where you're staying, look up the casinos around where you're staying, Google the table minimums at those casinos. That'll give you a pretty good idea of how to get the best deal.